Can John Fetterman actually win in Pennsylvania? You know that we're on Team Oz here on this show, obviously. Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz, incredibly smart, very successful, good guy, would do a good job in the Senate, I have no doubts, and has been running really a campaign. It's been solid, but in the last 4 weeks, I really think it's hit its stride with the messaging, and it's really got some momentum behind it at the key time. But we sit here, Clay and I sit here, and you all across the country, and we think about how they've put us in this position where someone like John Fetterman is it's even close is remarkable, and I think a testament to the fact that Democrats would willingly vote for somebody, even if he was essentially having to be in office from the hospital bed, and who knows who's actually making the decisions. I think they just don't care. And this will affect, obviously, also, I think at some level, Clay, if Fetterman were to win, I think that Biden looks at that, believe it or not, and says, I mean, look, if that guy, under those circumstances, can just mobilize Democrats and have the media carry enough water, anything is possible. Here is where we are, just so everyone knows. An NBC reporter named Dasha Burns interviewed Fetterman, but the most interesting part of this yesterday wasn't actually what aired. It's what she said about what happened before the parts that aired.
We had a monitor set up so that he could read my questions because he still has lingering auditory processing issues as a result of the stroke, which means he has a hard time understanding what he's hearing. Now, once he reads the question, he's able to understand. You'll hear he also still has some problems, some challenges with speech. And I'll say, Katie, that just in some of the small talk prior to the interview, before the closed captioning was up and running, it did seem that he had a hard time understanding our conversations. He
cannot engage, Clay, in normal conversation. This is a lib reporter who is admitting that he is unable to cognitively process normal conversation. He needs a teleprompter to be able to do interviews. And they act like this is, this is truly crazy town that they're still pretending this is okay, but they're ruthless.
For people out there who don't understand the way that this conversation was taking place, so she is sitting in a room with him, sitting across from him like you would be across from anybody who was maybe sitting at a table with you at dinner. He is at a table with a full desktop monitor to his right. So she is asking questions. The question is then being typed into the monitor so that he can look at it and respond. This is, for all the talk, right? There, everybody out there is like, oh, Republicans don't care about who gets elected to the Senate. They're after, look, Herschel Walker 15 years ago did X or Y, and this is inexcusable. John Fetterman still being the nominee of either political party at this point in time with his health. And Buck, as you and I have well said, it doesn't even have to come down to his health, right? There are so many issues with his own political beliefs. But you can put all those political beliefs to the side now, as bad as they are, because he's Bernie Sanders, as he said, a Bernie Sanders clone. The man cannot have a conversation with a reporter. The job of a senator is to debate and discuss the issues of the day and advocate to your best ability for the constituents that you represent. John Fetterman cannot physically do the job of a United States senator. And I don't know what it's going to look like on the one day that he's agreed to debate Dr. Oz. I think it's October 25th. But if you are an independent voter out there, if you're listening to us right now anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania, John Fetterman is incapable of doing the job for which he is running. If he had an ounce of decency, Buck, and if his advisors were advising him well, he would have stepped down in May when he nearly died and allowed the Democrat Party to put somebody else in his stead. The fact that they are trying to drag him across the finish line, given his mental failures and his physical infirmities, is indefensible. Pennsylvania cannot elect this man. It is a travesty of democracy.
Certainly, some comparisons can be made to Woodrow Wilson at the end of his presidency. He had a massive stroke in 1919. And he was president of the United States, and they just decided they were going to hide it from the public.
Yeah.
They just hid it from the public that he was essentially in and out of bed, cognitively challenged. I mean, I think we're increasingly at a place where people have to realize the left is just the mob. They want power. They want control. They're collectivists. It doesn't matter how they get it. They have the mentality of Bolsheviks when it comes to government and wielding the levers of power. And I think that they would support somebody. I mean, look, a lot of these rules, a lot of these things, whether it's the 25th Amendment, relies on some degree of good faith.
Yeah.
I think Democrats at this point would say, even if somebody was like bedridden and in and out of consciousness, they would still vote for him. That's better. A Democrat in a coma would be better than a Republican who is healthy in the minds of the Democrat base. That is just what we're seeing. That's the mentality.
And that's why you're seeing, I really believe this, Buck, Herschel Walker attacked as he is being attacked. Because they are trying to drag John Fetterman across the finish line to take away a Republican Senate seat. And they're terrified of what's going to happen with Adam Laxalt out in Nevada, that he is going to find a way to win that race. And they know that if they lose Georgia, the Senate's done, right? And so Georgia is their firewall. And pay attention to what they're arguing. They're arguing while John Fetterman is clearly incapable of doing the job, that it is Republicans who are behaving in an abhorrent fashion for wanting to support Herschel Walker despite struggles in his past life. To my knowledge, Buck, I haven't seen any argument that Herschel Walker is not physically able to be a senator. You might not like him. You might not think that he's the best choice that there could be out there, but he is a very reasonable Senate candidate. Fetterman, I mean, again, everybody needs to see this video because the way we describe it even, if you see the way that he is having this interview conducted, where he is sitting across from a woman with a a desktop, so that he can actually see the questions that are going to be asked, Buck, it makes me wonder, what's it going to look like on October 25th when he's trying to debate Dr. Oz?
Well, I think the whole setup here, notice, Democrats, when they're really cornered, what they do is they try to use the decency and the sympathy of conservatives as a political weapon effectively against them. You and I have said all along.
Which is what Biden did with Hunter Biden, like talking about his son.
That's
right?
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden, obviously, that's the retreat that he makes because he knows otherwise it looks really bad. So he goes, well, I love my son, and he is a drug addict, just like so many other people out there. With Fetterman Oz, it's going to be Oz is this is like forcing someone to be in a position where if they do their job, they're a bully. But if they don't do their job on the debate stage, what's the point of any of this, right? I mean, you remember in Meet the Parents when he's in the pool and they're playing volleyball?
Oh, and he gets taunted for not trying hard enough?
He gets taunted for not trying hard, then he finally lets one rip and he hits that woman. Like, there's going to be a little bit of that in this debate in the sense that he either is going to go all out and he's going to look like he's beating up on cognitively challenged Fetterman, and that just means making his points. Look, I think Oz will be smooth about it. He'll do a good job. But it's an impossible situation. You have a guy who's going to be reading off of a teleprompter. I mean, this is – it's not ableism, which is a term we're going to start hearing more, I think, in the weeks ahead, to say that Fetterman is not able to do this job. That's just where we are.
Look, and I think what you're saying is a good point because they're going to argue, oh, look at Dr. Oz, he's picking on a stroke victim. No. Like, take it outside the world of an election. If you were in a race with a runner who had a broken leg and you dusted that runner in the broken leg, you wouldn't say, oh, look, he's taking advantage of a guy with a broken leg. You'd say, hey, the guy with the broken leg shouldn't have been in the race. Like, Fetterman is not physically capable of being a senator. And he has failed the Democrats by not stepping down.
I just want to be clear, and you and I both know this, millions of Democrats are going to vote for him. They do not care.
Well, a lot of people won't even know. A lot of people won't even know who John Fetterman is, right? They'll just click the D button. You know, there's 40% of the population out there that doesn't even know that the guy has mental failures or that anything about his background. They're just going to be on the D team.
We'll see. Barbara in San Antonio is a speech pathologist, and she has some expertise to bring to bear here on the Fetterman situation. Barbara, thanks for calling in.
Certainly. If he has difficulty understanding speech that's presented verbally, most likely he will have difficulty understanding the written word. The degree with what that applies, I'm not sure, but either way, it is possible he could read orally with complete accuracy and not know what he was reading.
That's really kind of fast. Thank you for the update there. For people out there who are just tuning in, John Fetterman finally set for a face-to-face interview, and it did not go well. And I believe we have a couple of more cuts of that audio. He is immediately contradicting himself, and the reporter will follow up, and he'll say the exact opposite. Just listen to a couple of these cuts.
Are you committed to showing up on October 25th to debate your opponent no matter what happens?
No, I'm not concerned. I believe that's another opportunity to be transparent, and people can make their own decisions, during the debate.
Sorry, to clarify, are you committed to showing up on October 25th no matter what your opponent says or does?
Well, yeah, of course I'm going to show up on the 25th.
So
it seemed like he didn't understand the initial question, to be fair.
Yes. I mean, he said the exact opposite answer. You guys could hear that question, and that's unfortunate. I wish he was well enough to be able to answer these questions, but he's giving exact opposite answers. And, Buck, I don't know what this is going to look like on October 25th, but I think it's going to be really hard for anybody who is a reasonable voter. And we know there's a lot of people out there who are just going to vote Democrat because they are committed to that team, and it doesn't matter who's on the ballot at all. But if you're watching a guy with a big desktop screen who's not even able to look at the person asking the questions, and you are seeing how stumbling and bumbling his ability to process and analyze information is going to be, it's not like this guy is even capable of doing the job. And look, I think he's got poor political opinions. I think he's an awful candidate. I think his past record is atrocious. But he's not even capable of doing the job of being a United States senator.
Do you think that it's too far to say? I've been saying that they would vote for Biden even if they wheeled him out in a wheelchair with a blanket across his knees, eating apples. If he was at that phase in life, which, people do reach if they're lucky enough to live to be that old, that they would do that. Do you think the Democrats would vote for a candidate who was in a coma and just say, well, he'll come out of it? Because I think they would. I think they actually would do it.
I think if Fetterman had another issue, there would still be 45%, another health issue, right, where he wasn't able to finish the campaign like he wasn't able to finish the Democrat primary campaign. I think 45% of Pennsylvanians would still vote the Democrat base for John Fetterman if he were in a coma in the hospital, unable to know whether he was going to live or die.
And how many of those people do you think got really, really upset about how the Trump cabinet wasn't invoking the 25th Amendment? Because on CNN, the doctors were saying we needed the 25th Amendment for Trump. All of them.
Yes, every single one of those people who would vote for John Fetterman, even if he were in a coma in the hospital, were upset because the 25th Amendment wasn't.
It's almost like they have no principles and only care about power. I don't know.